Okay, let's talk about statues and statue destroying. Okay, now should we get rid of the movie Forrest Gump? Because after all, Forrest was named after a despicable human being, uh, General Nathan Bedford Forrest. Okay, or should we keep the movie because it argues a very good and salient point? Let's first talk about Nathan Bedford. Nathan Bedford was Nathan Bedford Forrest was a Confederate general. He was guilty of one of the largest massacre of Union troops, or should we say Republican troops. But what they're not saying, though, is that Union troops that he massacred was largely an all-black contingent coming to rescue their brothers in the South, coming to free them. So should we get rid of the movie, or should we keep the movie because of its salient points of how even a simple man can change history and can influence outcomes? I like what Sally Field says. Sometimes we need a reminder of the stupid things that we've done. Well, Sally Field in the movie put it mildly, because I can't say it was stupid. I can say it was definitely hateful and it was definitely hurtful. But I would not want to get rid of one of those movies because I love history and I love how it showed and how it demonstrated how we can change our future by protesting the present, by involving ourselves in nonviolent manners. You know, Cuomo says, show me where protesters cannot use assault. Well, then, if protesters can use assault, then why are the Proud Boys arrested? Weren't they assaulting their opponents on the left? Or is it assault is only available to those on the left as a means? I can understand that sometimes violence is a last resort, because after all, we did fight against the Confederacy and we did fight against the Brits. However, we never were the ones that did the first strike. Remember, it was the Brits that massacred 5 people. Remember, it was in North Carolina, the first shot was shot by the Confederacy. Again, when going into World War II, it was the Japanese that struck Pearl Harbor. The only thing we did was refuse to sell them gas and oil to fund their planes while they were taking over major parts of Asia. So we do have a right to defend ourselves. We do not have a right to go into other countries and take over. Yes, the Second Gulf War, opposed to, never should have happened. And quite frankly, once again, the CIA neocons were wrong with their intel. So why should we believe their intel about Russia, Russiagate spying? It's, to me, with the Democrats and all this Russia stuff, it's just more of the boy who cried wolf. Stop it. Come up with issues. Tell me what is different. Tell me why you want to get rid of this statue. And who is it that wants to? How is it going to help? How is it going to benefit POC? How is it going to benefit Black Lives Matter? Tell me this. Do not act on violence. Do not remove reminders. Instead, emphasize those reminders and say, we can do better. Okay, so now let's look at in New York where they destroyed the statue of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass was a Republican. Was he destroyed because of that? Remember, the first 16 black senators in America were those of Republicans. Okay? Remember, Douglass was an escaped slave who went to the North and forced America to live up to its values. Told us here, held up a mirror and say, when you talk about slavery, are you just talking about slavery of white people or are you talking about slavery of all people? Are you going to free my people or are you just going to free some and leave the rest? Also, some people would like to argue that Lincoln was also a racist and and he wouldn't have freed the slaves if it meant keeping the Union. Something to note about Lincoln was Lincoln did not believe that people should be able to keep other people's money who earned it. Does it sound very similar to something? He believed that people should be able to rise up from his own class. But then again, yes, he did believe that blacks should not rise above higher classes. Okay. So, but he did believe everybody in the country should be free. He was a skilled debater and an orator. He was able to motivate those that were even against him. So, why did we get rid of Frederick Douglass? Frederick Douglass was a man of conviction. Asking him why did he join the Republican Party? Why did he talk to President Lincoln? He said, because they had the jobs, they had the control. He would have done the same thing if it was a Democratic Party. Essentially, Frederick Douglass wanted the best for his people and was encouraging others to join him. He was encouraging them to vote. He was encouraging them to run for office. He was encouraging them to set laws. Remember, we got the 13th Amendment because of him. Okay. And yes, we still need a little work on the 13th Amendment because I do not believe incarceration should be a tool used for slavery. Remember the city work and earning money, 7 cents for every dollar because you have to pay back everything the state pays for you. Because our system still needs work. It has to stop where the prosecutor can get a conviction whether something is true or not. Because remember, look at Kamala Harris. Even after knowing that the man was innocent, she kept trying to squelch the record to keep him in prison because that would affect her election chances and that would affect her conviction rating. And I also love how she was convicting people for the use of marijuana while she admits on national radio and public airing that she used marijuana and that she was using Bob Marley, and all these reggaes. And I find it funny how her own parents were disavowing that and saying, look, we are not stereotypical. We are middle-class black family. We are not people who she says she is. And now let's talk about the Minnesota statue of Hans Christian Heg, who is an abolitionist and a member of the Free Soil Party. What was the reasoning for getting rid of this statue? The fact that the Free Soil Party joined the Republican Party? Remember, some members of the Free Soil Party also joined the Democratic Party, who were not which was not against slavery, but wanted to promote and expand the use of slavery. Or was it because his middle name was Christian? We all know how the Democrats hate Christians because look at Cuomo, Newsom, how they banned people attending church services while allowing for rallies with no mass and close quarters. Now, if these people are allowed to destroy statues, what about people allowed to destroy Black Lives murals or other artworks from the opposing side, as they did in California, where they painted over a road mural? Because, look, if you're going to have one law for one party, that law needs to apply to all. But that doesn't seem to be happening in America. Okay, so please explain to me, why was Hans Christian Heg, a staunch abolitionist, dethroned? Or is it just the fact that people just want violence for violence sake? Or is it erasing history? Okay, you know, Trump's come up with this idea of a garden of statues to remind us of who we are, of our history. You know, but remember, are we going to judge people on our worst moments or on our best moments? Okay. Remember, if we did not have the talks of freedom and slavery when we founded, we would probably still have slavery today. Because a lot of people, when they were talking about being a slave to Mother England, were saying, look, aren't we the hypocrite? You know, a lot of people in the North also had slaves at the time and freed those slaves when they joined the revolution. They were saying this is wrong. So, what is it? Are we going to just erase our history? Or are we going to be like Satiana? Those that forget our history uh, will be doomed to repeat it. Because look at what is happening now. They are trying to erase any past, any semblance where they had slavery, while at the same time trying to make you into slaves. Okay, I remember an economic study that they did once showing that if they redistributed all the wealth in England to where everybody had the same amount, it would come out to be about £5. Also, have you ever noticed that some people will do very little work to achieve the same result as somebody that will work 20 times harder to try and get more? Yes, some things come easy for some people, some things come hard. But sometimes uh, those that work the hardest will come up with more. Because remember, Disney, his first venture as an advertising failed. Second came, or Edison, who said, I did not find a way, I found 10,000 ways of not doing something, but I only found one way of doing something. In other words, he kept on trying and trying until he succeeded and came up with such things as the light bulb. Okay, so what are we going to be? Are we going to be a nation of sheep that just follows the crowd and destroys everything? Or are we going to return to our individualist natures and help each other. You know, don't fall for the trap of need where I need more. Because remember, when people say they need more, they continue to make poor decisions. Okay? Because think of it like this: if you get an allowance and every week you spend more than your allowance, and then your mom and dad says, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you. Here's some money. Go pay off your debts." Then you go back next week, do the same thing. You spend more than your allowance. Then your mom and dad goes, "Okay, gives you money, pay off your debts." You continue doing that every week. Are you ever going to learn to live within your means? Are you ever going to learn to live within your allowance? Or are you going to learn skills to improve, make more money? What are you going to do? And also remember, Mark Zuckerberg is an alien, and it's our opinion that Tim Pool is a wuss.